In this series, we are touring the UK and Ireland looking for the energy solutions of the future. Is there a sustainable energy solution to our energy needs? We meet some prominent individuals and companies spearheading development of sustainable energy. And we ask them, how will the world make the transition? And when will it happen? Are we there yet? Today I have the pleasure of meeting with David Homfray, Chief Technology Officer at Space Solar. Welcome to Future Models, David.
Thank you.
Firstly, could you just explain what is space-based solar power?
So space-based solar power is taking terrestrial PV, but moving it into space. One of the issues, of course, of terrestrial PV is that the sun sometimes doesn't shine. Sometimes it's day, but sometimes it's night. We have, sometimes it's cloudy and precipitation from rain. So what we do is we move that PV and we move it into space. And then using microwave beams, we then beam that power down through the atmosphere and we collect it in a receiver we call a rectenna. And then we change that energy, we put it into the grid, and we can provide baseload technology using those renewable technologies that are being developed at real pace at the moment. What it means is that we can deliver this firm power from space and makes this other jigsaw piece that fits in the energy puzzle.
So what is your role as CTO at Space Solar?
So in Space Solar, we have a 12-year program to industrialize space-based solar power. So we have this program Space Solar has to develop all of the technologies, the logistics, the manufacturing, everything needed to put out space-based solar at scale. So my job is to try and see how we can accelerate that production.
So I suppose that question around the engineering and all those challenges, is it a question of if, or do you think it's a when we can deliver this on scale?
Oh, this can be delivered at scale. There's no, so the big hurdle, the big block, and it's actually the same for if you look in fusion, the commercialization of fusion, it's actually happening a little bit in the adaptation of fission into small modular reactors. It's all about that investment coming for early risk programs. I think we're getting to a stage now with net zero where it's becoming increasingly important for both public and private investors to understand that risk appetite is needed. But again, it's having that political support, that political will with that finance. But if we get that, we can build this. This is not we don't need to find any brand new materials. We don't need to find any components that don't already exist. We need to use those components for exactly this application and make them as manufacturable as possible.
Oh, brilliant. So I suppose we know that this is going to be achievable. Is it the answer to the energy crisis?
So it is an answer to the energy crisis. There are three main topics which we need to try and deal with. We have a time issue. So we need to meet net zero by 2050. We're already seeing some of the impacts from the climate crisis. We also need to, it's not just the UK meeting net zero, globally we must meet net zero together. And then finally, it's also about resources. To meet net zero, we are going to have to utilize more resource than we did before. And we need the development and the acceleration of renewables. We need more solar, we need more wind. We must have more fission because we need baseload, and we need to develop fusion. All of these, because of that time aspect and meeting net zero, we need everything. Space-based solar power just happens to be something which really hits all three of those big ticket items really well. And I can't, again, the dispatchability of this, the ability for it not to need interconnects, so these big cables that span across the world. We are not only the power station, we're also the interconnect, and that's really exciting.
Space Solar are looking at this as a UK entity. Is there going to be a need for international collaboration to help make this work?
We have a number of organisations that we're working with to develop there. We have some really good partners. However, this is an international journey for us all. For one thing, we're going to need to look at the regulations in terms of both parking spots for our satellites, but also the kind of frequency allocation. This, at the moment, we are governed by things like the International Telecommunications Union. All of these things will need international collaboration, people working together to try and set out the standards and the regulations for space-based solar power.
From everything you've said, it's clear that we need to support a range of technologies, and space-based solar power can be a part of that. Thanks for your time today, David.
Thank you.